Hey, Tussie in Cleveland. We are here. Def Chef and I are burning the midnight oil, actually. This is a special episode, not a full episode of Tussie in Cleveland, but like a mini episode. We're coming off the heels of Wrestlemania. Just happened, WrestleMania 28 in Miami. I'm a gigantic wrestling fan, and since I have a podcast and I can do whatever the hell I want, I've decided to make Jeff come in, drop the kids off at the sitter, and come in and talk about wrestling, which he has no desire to do. But Jeff, you're stuck here anyways.
That's fine, Nick.
You need to form a union if you want to have any rights. But until then, you're basically like a child in Indonesia. You sell those soccer balls. But so Mania was last night, WrestleMania. In case any of you don't really know, WrestleMania is basically the annual event for the WWE, and really over the years, it's pretty much turned into like right under the Super Bowl as far as how big it's gotten.
Yeah, I think I asked you this a couple weeks ago, but what WrestleMania are they up to now?
They're up to 20. This was 28 they just had. So
wow, that's and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing it most of our lives. The first one, obviously, 84, WrestleMania 1. And, Jeff, I'll tell you, in case you don't know a lot about the history, the original one really, like, if it wouldn't have taken off, there would be no WWE, WWF, any of that. It would have been bankrupt. Vince had to borrow a lot of money from a lot of people that were, at that time, big wrestling shows, pay-per-view did not exist. There was no such thing as pay-per-view.
Right.
And it was really hard to recoup your money, and it was just a brand new thing. And wrestling had always been kind of looked as like a regional, kind of like a hillbilly backyard kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when Vince came out and got the investors together for the first WrestleMania, and was smart enough to use cable television to help promote it, which was also brand new at that time. He used MTV and Cyndi Lauper and other celebrities, Muhammad Ali and Liberace and other people like that, to make this show more than about wrestling.
And Mr. T.
And Mr. T, obviously. So, yeah, I mean, that was a huge part of these. So, Mr. T at the time was gigantic. He was B.A. Baracus. He'd been in Clubber Lang in the Rocky movies. Hogan also had a Rocky movie to his credit and stuff. So it was the right time for Vince to really put up and or shut up. And it was about doing something different. What he did had never been done as far as like merging the entertainment together with the wrestling like that and making this big spectacle of almost like a Broadway kind of number almost.
Right.
Like it had that feel more than like your, Crockett's or Eddie Graham, their wrestling shows, although they did put on. There were bigger wrestling shows. World Class had put on wrestling shows in Texas Stadium. Florida used to have huge shows at different venues and stuff like that. So it had happened. The NWA had just started doing Starrcade a couple years before that, which was the same idea, but it was a wrestling show. And Vince really just gambled it all. And then once he had the show, he had the programming and everything else to just follow to really use that as the... WrestleMania basically is the cornerstone of the empire that he has built, and it wouldn't exist without it. So to see them now at 28, it is exciting, and it is amazing, and it is a giant spectacle that really, I mean, the Super Bowl, to be honest, I'd say they're almost really kind of even as far as maybe Super Bowl, because football is definitely a lot bigger, but I mean, as far as the spectacle, they're pretty huge.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a staple of America.
I mean, Jeff, you're not really into wrestling, but you probably heard about, John Cena and The Rock and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you really can't get away from it. And you've got an athlete like The Rock, I mean, who is one of the biggest stars in the world. Everybody knows who The Rock is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got to say that doesn't always mean that they do the best job in doing what they need to do as far as WrestleMania goes. And this has often been the WWE's problem. I'm not saying that last night wasn't a good show, that if you got the pay-per-view money, that it wasn't fun to watch, and there wasn't stuff. It was a Mania. It's a big show. They pulled out all the stops. But I feel, Jeff, as a wrestling dork and a loser who just really loves this stuff, now, I read all about it, and I've seen clips and stuff like that, and I know what's going on. But to be honest, I was content just watching a shoot video from the wrestler Perry Saturn, who was in the WWF and WCW and ECW years ago, fell on some hard times, is a big-time drug addict, but I was watching a shoot interview, which basically guys have like wrestlers come on and they do like 2-hour-long interviews and just basically tell you everything.
Nice.
And he's talking about like him and Raven putting a dildo on Billy Kidman's head, who was a wrestler that wrestled with him at that time, and using him as a battering ram to bang girls, and like just them like with a slip and slide in the hotel with dildos on their heads, getting kicked out of the hotel, and just craziness. And I find myself not really missing WrestleMania yesterday, but now that I see, I'm glad I didn't really watch it. I'm sure I'll watch the tapes. They're all fun to watch. And I'm sure there were some decent matches, but they really blundered, Jeff, and I'm going to tell you why.
Let's hear it.
Do you even you don't care?
No, I do care, actually, yeah.
You're going to learn some lessons here. First of all, I want to get to Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, which I think was the biggest ball dropping of the night. Sheamus is an Ultimate Warrior, Bill Goldberg type athlete, if they used him right. And they started off using him right. They brought him in early on. He beat Triple H. Forget who else. He won the world title, the WWE world title, the real title, the WWE title, the one that Hulk Hogan held, the one that Iron Sheik held, the one that Shawn Michaels held, the one that Bret Hart held. Not that world title that they got from a company that went out of business that they got as basically a door prize. The world title is the WCW title. That's how I'm going to refer to it because I think there's only one real title. That's the WWE world title. So they had Sheamus. He comes in, he wins the WWE World title as a rookie. He's a big, giant Irish dude, good mic skills, big, just built like those wrestlers that always end up being huge in the WWE. The fans love him. Then they kind of put him through a losing streak for some reason, which, whatever, okay. They finally have him build up and kind of get rolling again to where people are getting behind him again, and he's really becoming a big star. They have him win the Royal Rumble, which, Jeff, I'm going to tell you the history. Basically, the Royal Rumble is like the playoffs for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I remember.
30 men have a chance into the Royal Rumble. The winner should... Usually the way it works out is you wrestle the Royal Rumble to get a shot at the WWE World title in the main event, which is the last match of WrestleMania. That should be the main event. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, all these great WWE championships have always been the main event. There's been a couple of times where WWE's blundered, but I'll get back to that later. So he wins the Royal Rumble. Everyone's insane. What do? They have him select the world title, which is the WCW title, which is meaningless. David Arquette, the actor, actually held it at one point. Ooh, nice. Completely meaningless. Although at this point it's kind of cool because they gave it a couple of months ago. They put it on the waist of this guy named Daniel Bryan, who's been basically an independent wrestler for a long time and really worked his way into the Fed. He's a smaller guy. He was known as American Dragon. He was trained by Shawn Michaels. He wrestled Ring of Honor and all the other indies and made his name there. He's an awesome, true wrestler. He's just not a big guy. And most people felt he'd probably never have a career in the WWE. But he's come on. He even got fired when he first started for a controversial choking incident in which he choked executive with his tie on TV. Awesome. He came back. They have him win this world title, and even though I hate the title, on his waist it almost kind of seems cool because he's having good matches. Things are right. So what do? Go into Mania. They have Sheamus squash him in, I believe, 18 seconds. 18 or 28 seconds. They just have him destroy this guy. So basically, Daniel Bryan means nothing anymore. Sheamus' win means nothing because he won a title that means nothing. The title, once again, means nothing. And this is the stuff that WWE does. Ridiculous things that they just forget what they've been building up, and it's almost like they decide to change the script and rewrite it the last second.
Did you find out how it happened? Like, why did it only take 18 seconds?
I'll give you the whole, I think, one paragraph here.
Oh, okay.
WrestleMania 18 started with an earth-shattering bang as Sheamus defeated Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds to capture his first World Heavyweight Championship. This is from WWE.com.
Okay.
Setting a new record for the quickest world title change in history in the Showcase of the Immortals. Look, they tried to put the spin on that like it wasn't just a rip-off match.
Right.
It's not history. It's stupid. As Bryan went to kiss his girlfriend AJ, give her a real name, all right? The champ kissing some dude named AJ. He ignored the fact that the bell had already rung to start the match, knowing all too well that a superstar needs to take advantage to find the success at the show of shows. Just call it Mania. We don't need 15 different adjectives for WrestleMania. WWE.com. Since cashing his Money in the Bank opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Basically, he kissed his girlfriend and Sheamus, put him in a move, and took him out.
Oh.
So it was just as stupid. There wasn't even a match. And keep in mind, these two are considered two of the better wrestlers. And Sheamus for a power guy and Daniel Bryan just as a technical wrestler, two of the best guys they have. So let's make it an 18-second bullshit fest.
Right. So you just paid $30 to watch that instead of these guys like pulling off some sweet moves and jumps and stuff, you know?
Right. Now, that's the first match. It's not the main event. But, yeah, normally they start off their WrestleMania, too. Let me put this in perspective for you, Jeff. Normally the first match of WrestleMania is this match called Money in the Bank, where they have a briefcase hanging over the ring, right? They've done it for, like, the last 6 years. And it's a ladder match. And you have, like, 6 to 8 guys in it. And basically whoever climbs the ladder and gets that briefcase first has a shot at the WWE title whenever they want for a year.
Oh, nice. That's kind of cool. Like
it's awesome, and that's how they've always started off. So this year, instead of Money in the Bank, you get an 18-second squash match.
Oh.
So
now, that's kind of a letdown.
The next big failure, I gotta say, is the Intercontinental Championship match: Cody Rhodes versus Big Show. Cody Rhodes is a second-generation wrestler. His father, obviously the legendary American Dream, the Throne, baby! And just one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And he's the little brother, the Goldust. Another phenomenal WWE superstar, just a legend. So,
if you don't know those guys' names, then
yeah, right. Even you know them, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Goldust is your favorite wrestler, right?
No.
But Cody Rhodes had a hard time really fitting in. First of all, that dude weighs like 80 pounds. He might as well be like an underwear model, not a friggin' wrestler. Right. So it was tough. And his dad is famous for being a big fat ass.
Right.
So, and his brother's not exactly Mr. Slim either. So this guy, and he's not a great talker. And it took a while, but they didn't give up on him. They've had him around for a long time, and they did something great with him. They gave him the Intercontinental Championship, which, Jeff, the Intercontinental Championship has always been like the second championship in the WWE.
Yeah, that's a big one, right?
Yeah, like Macho Man held it before he was a champ. Ricky Steamboat, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Honky Tonk Man, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, blah, 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 blah. This goes on. You want to be a great world champion, you start off by holding the Intercontinental title.
Right.
One of my favorite titles of all time in any wrestling promotion ever. Love the Intercontinental title, but over the last few years, it's been a joke.
It sounds important.
Right, and it should be, but they've been screwing it up, and they've been making it not important. But now, what you got to know about the Intercontinental title is one of its history things is that of all the great champions that held it, the longest running champion is the Honky Tonk Man. And the Honky Tonk Man, I think, held it for like 260 days or like almost a year or like about a year. I'll look it up. I'm sorry. I don't exactly remember off the top of my tongue, but just a really long title streak. And that was in the 80s, and it's never been broken. So now, like, once a champion holds it for a while, they kind of can get over just on the fact that they're chasing Honky Tonk Man, almost like Roger Maris, like that old home run thing was in, like, the 90s and stuff,
Yeah.
So he's had this Intercontinental Champion, Cody Rhodes, and although I didn't like him at first, the longer he's been an Intercontinental Champion, the better he's been getting. And it's been a pretty awesome reign, and it's kind of brought the Intercontinental title back to its glory, and also made him kind of interesting.
So he took on the Big Show?
So they had him go against the Big Show.
Which, that dude's like 3 times his size or something?
Exactly.
Like an Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan scenario?
So think, can you really have the Big Show? So let's look at either way before we go in. Cody Rhodes wins. You make the biggest guy in your industry look like more of an ass on WrestleMania because Big Show's also known for losing, having really bad luck at WrestleMania. He's got like a WrestleMania curse. He's lost to Floyd Mayweather. He's lost to a sumo guy, The Undertaker, like everybody. He sucks at WrestleMania. So, like, if they would have had Cody Rhodes, they would have buried him. I don't know if Big Show would have ever gotten out of that. But at the same time, the Big Show did win the match. And obviously it's not a big shock. But you ruin Cody Rhodes now. The Intercontinental Championship means nothing on the Big Show. He'll hold it for 2 weeks and he'll lose it. The Intercontinental Championship's not going to hold the Big Show. He's, I think, a 3-time world champion, 2 or 3-time world champion, WWE world champion. Plus, he's held the WCW piece of tin a few times, too. So, like, the Intercontinental Champion does nothing for him. Right. And but now he's a champ, and the whole Cody Rhodes streak thing, now... They don't understand that they're a fake sport. They can control things. Like football, there's big storylines that happen that people, or even just other sports, like where people jump on, but they have no real control over it. Like when Brett Favre's father dies and he comes out and has one of the greatest games of his career. You can't write that stuff, but the NFL and baseball and all that make use of it when it happens. The WWE controls it. They can write this shit. It's not like, they don't have to make fate to have it happen. They can write it however they want. And they always just shit on doing something great. So, Strike 2, another awful match. Or, I don't know if it was an awful match, but I really just find that stupid. All right, you know what, Jeff? Tough in Cleveland here. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with part 2, the second and final part of my WrestleMania report. This is Jimmy Demora. Whenever I'm not banging whores in Vegas, I'm listening to Tough Scene Cleveland. Hey everybody, it's Wolf from Tough Scene Cleveland. I want to talk to you about our big show coming up next week. Yes, episode 7 of the enigmatic and elite Tough Scene Cleveland. We will be bringing you none other than from Cleveland's hottest band right now, well, second to the Nick Wolf Band, The Missing. Christopher Marinin will be coming to talk about what's it like winning the Scene Awards, something I know nothing about, what's it like to play at Peabody's, and what's it like to actually be in a band that gets chicks. So we'll be talking about all that stuff with Chris Marinin next week from the band The Missing. Also, I am very proud to announce that finally, after our lost tapes have been dug up in a shanty basement somewhere in East Cleveland, we bring to you none other than the polka band Fox. Frank Martinez will be tuning up his pipes and bringing in his buddies. Him and Paul will be here telling us about all the best in ethnic Cleveland music. So Tough Scene Cleveland, Tuesday night 6 to 8. Tune in. It's going to be awesome. Tough Scene Cleveland. As my world turns, the heart beats, not only in my chest, but the heart in the street. All right, Tough Scene Cleveland. Nick Wolf here, Def Jeff. We are back, going through last night's WrestleMania card. Jeff, I don't know, do you have a better appreciation for wrestling now?
After the first segment there? Oh, yeah.
You want to know. All right, well, the next match on that card was Team Teddy versus Team Johnny. Obviously, a little background. This is the two general managers of WWE's two shows. Monday night, they have Raw. Friday, I don't even know when the hell it's on. They have another show on sometime on some cable network. I think on Sci-Fi in between Ghost Hunters called SmackDown, which used to be a great show, but it's just a joke now. And obviously, the Raw general manager is John Laurinaitis, and the SmackDown manager, obviously, they give, Teddy Long just can't get a break. Listen here, playa. They give him the Friday night crap show, and now he's got to fight for that. It was basically a 5-man tag. Team Laurinaitis consisted of team captain David Otunga, who is an upcoming star. I think if he wasn't so short, he'd be a bigger star, but I think he's going to be awesome. Dolph Ziggler, who I think is the modern-day Mr. Perfect and is the best guy, one of the, under CM Punk, probably the best guy they have right now. Jack Swagger, who is another great up-and-coming heel wrestler. Mark Henry, who sucks, but they got to put him somewhere. Drew McIntyre. Wow, what happened? Drew McIntyre is a Scottish wrestler who was over a few months, a year ago, and then I don't know what happened to him, but I guess he's back. And then, of course, Parma resident and Parma hero, Cleveland's only champion, The Miz. That was Team Johnny. So, Jeff, that sounds like a pretty good team, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And these are the top guys, right? These are some of the top heels. So who do you think they would have if you're competing for your company? Who would you want on your team? You know, some of the WWE superstars. Who would you think if you could pick a couple guys to represent you? Who would it be?
Well, who's on those teams that weren't mentioned? Or am I get?
No, I'm giving you your dream team. If you could pick Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock.
Well, yeah,
Undertaker, right? You take those guys?
Oh, right away, yeah.
Right. Well, guess who Teddy Long got?
Who?
All right, one big star to take Santino Marella, who, multiple. And let me tell you about Santino Marella. Jeff, the big thing, although he's an awesome wrestler, and he's a great performer, he's funny as hell, and he is great. But his finishing move is he puts a sock on his hand like Mick Foley that looks like a snake and puts it in people's mouths. And then, is it
a dirty sock or a clean sock?
I'm probably dirty at this point. It's WWE.
Oh. That's kind of gross.
Yeah. And he was also famous for he won the women's WrestleMania Battle Royal years ago because he dressed for a long time. His other gimmick was Santina Morello, where he was a female wrestler.
Wow.
So that's who Teddy Long's got. Kofi Kingston, who is a great, exciting young wrestler, but he's a cruiserweight. Booker T, who is Harlem Heat legendary wrestler, I think 5-time WCW champion, or maybe 7-time. I'm not sure. He was won a bunch of times. Great wrestler. Unfortunately, he's pretty much retired as an announcer now. And let's see, that's 4. And Hornswoggle, who is a midget, a leprechaun.
Oh, wow.
And the Great Khali, who is most famous. He was in the Adam Sandler The Longest Line, or The Longest Yard.
Oh, okay.
You know the center.
Right.
That's the Great Khali. The guy can't even fucking move. He makes Andre Giant on his deathbed look like Rob Van Dam.
Oh man.
So that was Teddy Long's team. So guess what? John Laurinaitis won. These matches always suck. They're like Survivor Series matches without the Survivor Series, especially with a good team against just a bunch of bozos. I don't see how it being good. And John Laurinaitis, I'm looking at a picture here. He's dressed like Brother Love, so that's awesome.
Oh wow.
So once again, if you bought that pay-per-view last night, good for you. You're a moron. You should just stayed home and watch Game of Thrones season 2, which premiered last night.
Ooh, that was the premiere.
Oh yeah, dude. I read all the books. I haven't even started watching the show yet at all. I'm waiting for the first season to come on DVD. I'm like a couple hundred pages into the newest book, to the 5th book. So I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, and if I would have missed, if I would have had a chance to watch either and I would have picked this, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, we got the first season on DVD from Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Just hit there and
steal that from
watch that first episode, and yeah, dude.
It's amazing, right?
It's pretty crazy,
dude,
man.
It gets so much better, too. Trust me, just don't get attached to anybody. They pull the wool out or the rug out from under you a million times in that series. Great epic story. I think the best piece of fantasy. But then calling it fantasy is not fair because I think it's in a way it's as realistic as like The Wire,
Right. Just yeah.
But in a fantasy setting. So
you were having a little bit of a brainstorm last night. I think I saw you posting on Facebook about. Wrestlemania versus Game of Thrones.
Right, yeah, it was a tournament. I did it up quick. It didn't catch, but
how would that go down?
Well, okay, it's a deathmatch bracket thing basically.
So the loser is dead.
Dead. Yo, Game of Thrones. Listen, there's no fucking disqualifications in Game of Thrones. If you lose, you die.
Right.
This isn't the WWE where everything's predetermined.
Get your head chopped off with a 7-foot sword.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had it like some of the matches were what we were gonna do. It was gonna be like Bret the Hitman Hart versus Jamie the Kingslayer Lannister.
Nice.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Khal Drogo, and that was our buddy Dan Herzl also was kind of his idea. I was just kind of playing along with it.
Oh, okay.
But and then he told me, he's like, well, this is all meaningless because there's already one king that rules it all, and that's Jerry the King Lawler, and he'd automatically win because he's the fucking king. Right. So I agree. So Westeros, all your Civil War problems will be solved if you just put Jerry the King Lawler on the Iron Throne. I think it would solve everything. The women wouldn't be married off. There'd be puppies all over the kingdom. It'd be awesome.
And just give him the belt.
Right. And you can marry him to Sansa Stark because he'll bang a 15-year-old. He don't care. Oh, did I say, hey, Jerry, if you don't want me to say it, you shouldn't have done it, buddy.
So what was the big match at WrestleMania?
I'm getting there, Jeff. Boy, you're really just, getting antsy here.
We got a time limit.
I'm sorry. Yes, I will get roll. I guess the next match I'm going to talk about here, it should have been the main event. It wasn't the main event because The Rock and John Cena, I guess, are more important. The only match I would have paid a cent for on this card, and that is CM Punk versus the Chris Jericho. Do you know both those guys?
Yeah, I've heard both those names. I've seen Chris Jericho in a few matches.
Chris Jericho, my favorite wrestler of all time. I think the greatest wrestler of his era. Came out in an era of it was the end of the Indies, where there were no more territories anymore, and there hadn't been them for a long time. But these group of guys from like Canada and Japan and all that kind of made their way of like wrestling in indies and going to Japan and learning the Japanese style of wrestling, going to Canada and learning the Canadian style wrestling, going to Mexico and learning the luchador style wrestling, and then like going through ECW and then finally signing at WCW and having their careers ruined before they went to the WWE. And it's like him, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, you could say, Rey Mysterio Jr. in a roundabout way did the same thing. Who's been Benoit, Malenko, Eddie Guerrero obviously being one of the biggest. So these guys all came together, and really, Jericho is the greatest and the last of all of them. And I think the greatest wrestler of all time. And him and CM Punk have really been going at it. Jericho came out and said CM Punk's dad was an alcoholic and his sister was a drug addict. And CM Punk's going to turn into a drug addict when he loses the match.
Oh, nice.
Just Chris Jericho's the perfect heel.
Some awesome shit talking.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. And CM Punk, and both they're the two best talkers in the business. CM Punk changed the business last July by one interview. He came out and took the microphone and aired his grievances about the WWE and just became a superstar and really got a lot of people back on the WWE bandwagon this year. So this was for the WWE World Title. CM Punk is the champ, and he defended it. I heard it was a great match. It could have been longer. Like, people felt like the emphasis was kind of pulled off it because of the other matches, which I agree with. I think these guys have probably wrestled better matches. But I'm not going to talk about this too much because it was a good match. CM Punk won. Can't take the title off him yet. He's a great champion. He could be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. Jericho is the perfect guy to come up and on a big main event and lose. You know, it'll just make CM Punk look better. So that was cool. I'm good with that match, Jeff.
Nice. So what was that? That was for what title?
That was for the WWE World. That was for the championship. My only problem is that it should have been the main event.
I got you.
Unfortunately, when you make it say fucking AC/DC came into town with Mushroom Head, right?
Okay.
Would AC/DC be opening for Mushroom Head ever in any sense of the word?
Right, I get you.
Never. It would ruin it. The world title shouldn't be before anything. It's the epitome of what makes the wrestlers best, and when you ruin how important that is, the whole struggle what these guys go through is to win the world title. So and when you make it mean less, you make everything else mean less.
So only because I don't know.
Because you have a life and a girlfriend
about this
and
as
a
you.
family.
There was no title for the main event then.
Right.
It was just they
Rock
wanted
and
to
Cena,
fight
right.
for the show.
But CM Punk at least still walks away with the title. But I'm getting there once I go with two more matches though, Jeff. The next match, Undertaker, Triple H, Hell in a Cell. Everyone's saying this was one of the best matches ever. This was a phenomenal match. I'm sure it was. Listen.
Break that down for me. What's Hell in a Cell?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forget that you know. Okay, Hell in a Cell is a match that they've had since about the late 90s. It's a steel cage, right?
Okay.
But instead of climbing out of the cage, it has a roof on it.
Oh, nice.
And it covers the whole ring. So you can actually leave the ring, and you have like 10 feet before the cage starts, you know?
Right.
This is made most famous. The first one they ever had was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in '97, and it was a phenomenal match.
I probably saw that.
Right, it was awesome. The next one they had made and ruined it. It was 1998. It was the King of the Ring. It was The Undertaker, and Hell in a Cell usually is Undertaker, not always, but usually.
Right.
It was Mick Foley versus Undertaker, and if you know anything about wrestling, you've seen anything, you've seen clips of this. This is probably one of the most famous matches of all time. Mick Foley gets knocked off the cage in the first couple minutes. And I mean by off the cage, I mean off the top of the cage, outside, onto a table, but like the floor pretty much. Totally fucked up within the first 5 minutes of the match. Undertaker should climb down and pin him. What happens? That maniac Mick Foley gets his ass up, climbs back up to the top of the cage, gets beat up a little more, then gets chokeslammed through the top of the cage into the ring.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure. I gotta watch it again. I can't remember. Then thumbtacks were broken out at a certain point too, and he got slammed a few times on the thumbtacks. By the end of the match, he's a bloody mess. Has his tooth sticking through his nose. Fucking thumbtacks sticking to him. The greatest spectacle of made Mick Foley a star. They've done a bunch of Hell in a Cells. They don't do it every year. They do it every once in a while when it's a big feud and it needs to pay off. You put it in the Hell in a Cell.
Nice. Okay.
The Undertaker is, Jeff, I don't know if you know, the big thing with The Undertaker at WrestleMania, all he does now is wrestle at WrestleManias. He's pretty much retired, but he's got a streak.
Right.
And I believe this was 20, right? Yeah, this was 20. He was 19-0 going up. He's never lost WrestleMania.
Wow.
The last couple years, though, it's kind of sucked because, well, last year he went against Triple H and it was considered one of the best matches. He went against Triple H in 2007 also, and he went against Shawn Michaels the year before, 2 years ago. So it's gotten kind of boring with the whole Undertaker thing. They don't know who else to come in for the streak. It's just the same guys.
And you're just expecting him to win.
Right. So they did the Hell in a Cell, and everyone said it was a great match, and I agree with that, but I didn't want to pay for Undertaker Triple H again. It's been done before, and maybe it's awesome. If you have a year to prepare for a match, I hope it's good, you know?
Right. Did Undertaker win?
And Undertaker did win and kept the streak going on.
Wow.
So. The storyline was kind of cool because it was like Triple H didn't even want to, according to the storyline as the GM, he didn't want to be in the match because he was like, I don't want to, there's too much money. I'm not going to, what if I beat Undertaker? That's not good for business. And then Shawn Michaels, his buddy, came out and said, hey, quit being a pussy. And then Shawn Michaels ended up being like the ref or something or being involved. So it like had all the names and stuff, but I didn't care. So, Jeff, the main event, the last thing I'm going to talk about, Rock Cena.
Nice.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. It's going to be kind of anticlimactic. Don't care. The Rock hasn't been in the company in 6 years, I think, a main wrestler. John Cena is a great wrestler. I think the guy deserves. Hopefully, we'll get the respect he deserves after this, and this will be. But the Rock beat him, bottom line. So anything they were going to help, like to help John Cena and all, they give it to a guy that hasn't wrestled in 7 years that doesn't need to wrestle ever again.
Yeah, he's just going to go make a few more Scorpion Kings and.
Right, it's completely pointless. And it was just a stupid match. They planned this a year ago. I don't want to know the WrestleMania match a year away. It makes it boring because then you're like, well, what about all the other storylines? Do they not mean shit? Right. So there's nothing you're going to do for the next year that's going to be worthy of the main event. CM Punk, as awesome as he is, just does not have a chance to be in the main event of Mania. The Royal Rumble doesn't result in a main event of Mania match. It's stupid to me.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I didn't realize The Rock hadn't wrestled in that long.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty much retired,
Right.
Machine Gun Kelly, Cleveland rap recording artist, did his song.
For the main event, huh?
Yeah, for the main event. Invincible for John Cena. And it's just a bunch of stupid malarkey, to be honest with you. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, people, you want to see a real show, you want to know what the WWE is really about, turn on the USA Tonight Network on Monday night. Well, if you watch the Legends, we're getting before it, but basically the Hall of Fame induction is on the Monday after WrestleMania on USA. Edge is getting inducted, as well as the Four Horsemen. That'll be a great show. I do love the pageantry of Mania. I really wish there was some sort of pre-show thing for Mania. It's like football, you can start at 11 o'clock in the morning, it gets psyched up. I was psyched yesterday, and if they would have had some pre-show and got me more psyched about it, I might have gone to the Fox and Hound to watch it. But I'm just not going to sit. It wasn't worth it for me to, little kids running around and hillbillies with their 15-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts. Yeah. I just didn't want to deal with that. But if they had some sort of pregame, they might have gotten me into it because I was kind of feeling it yesterday morning.
There used to be pregame reports, right? I mean,
they've done things, and it does start at 7. Like the whole pre-show thing and everything like that. I remember one year before WrestleMania 2000, they had a history of WrestleMania thing on it, noon.
Right, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
They really should. I think people, because it's a day kind of event, and if you go to the event, it's a whole weekend thing. But even for the fans, you wake up WrestleMania Day, and it is like Super Bowl Sunday, and you want to kind of be immersed in wrestling all day, and you really can't unless you've got YouTube. I did. I listened to shoot interviews. I listened to Jim Cornette bitch about everything all day yesterday. It was awesome. I was into wrestling. I was feeling it. And they should start it earlier. I wouldn't mind that at all. So, Jeff, that's it.
WrestleMania report.
Do you feel like you know more about wrestling now?
I do. I do.
All right. Well, so this is Nick, Dev Jeff from Tough Scene Cleveland. Thank you for tuning into our WrestleMania report. We will be back with you next Tuesday for a brand new episode of Tough Scene Cleveland. Christopher Marinin from The Missing and Fuck. The brand new Slovenian polka band that's taking the world by storm. All right, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Tough Scene Cleveland. Good night.